Welcome to episode 3 in the series Why I'm Leaving Canada. Today's topic on the Canadian government's website is Future Lives Basic Needs at Risk. All right, Nexus, there are quite a few points in here. This one is a little heavier. Let's get into the first one. Basic needs may become hard to afford.
Exactly. The article points out that as economic pressures rise, like job displacement from automation or inflation, basic necessities like housing, food, and healthcare could become out of reach for many people. This could lead to a growing gap between those who can afford them and those who can't, putting everyday survival at risk.
And the next point is multiple pressures hit at once.
Right. The article explains that these economic pressures don't come in isolation. Instead, they multiply. Rising costs, climate disasters, and supply chain disruptions all hit together. This creates a perfect storm where the most vulnerable people struggle just to meet basic needs, and resilience is harder to build.
Sounds like a bright future. Food and water become less secure.
Exactly. The article warns that as these pressures escalate, access to food and clean water could become far less reliable. Climate change, resource scarcity, and disruptions in agriculture mean that some communities may face hunger or water shortages, making basic survival much more uncertain.
Energy costs affect everything.
Exactly. The article highlights that rising energy costs ripple through every aspect of life: transport, production, and even heating homes. As energy prices climb, everything else follows, making it harder for people to keep up with basic expenses and straining household budgets even further.
And it sounds like a lot of that is already happening now. Housing becomes harder to access.
Exactly. The article points out that as housing prices rise and wages stagnate, many people simply can't keep up. This leads to more competition for affordable homes, pushing some out of stable living situations. Eventually, we could see a rise in homelessness or precarious housing, making security even more elusive.
Jobs become less stable.
Exactly. The article explains that with automation and the gig economy growing, jobs are becoming less predictable and less secure. People may bounce between temporary contracts or unstable gigs, which makes it harder to plan for the future or meet basic financial needs.
People feel increasing insecurity.
Exactly. The article emphasizes that all these pressures compound, leaving people feeling increasingly insecure about their safety nets, whether that's their income, their home, or their future prospects. This insecurity can create stress, anxiety, and a constant sense of being on the edge, which affects overall well being.
Society starts to break down.
Exactly. As these insecurities spread, the article argues that social cohesion begins to unravel. When people can start to depend on stable incomes, housing, or even basic resources, trust in institutions falters. Eventually, this breakdown can lead to more instability, unrest, and a decline in overall societal well being.
Okay, well, that all sounds pretty amazing, and I guess my want to leave the country is not decreasing article after article, that's for sure. Can you please summarize the whole article and give us a conclusion as well, please?
Of course, the article, titled Future Lives Basic Needs at Risk, outlines a future where economic, environmental, and social pressures converge. Basic needs like housing, food, water, and energy become harder to afford as multiple crises hit at once. Jobs grow less stable, and people feel a rising sense of insecurity. Ultimately, the article warns that if these trends continue, society could start to break down, with basic survival at risk for many. The conclusion is a call to action. We need to address these pressures now through policy, resilience, and a renewed focus on equity before these risks spiral out of control.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Nexus. Thank you for joining me on the third one here. And I always leave the links to the actual article in the description, of course. Everyone, have a good day, and thank you very much for joining me. Take care.